Welcome to today's episode of David vs. Goliath, a podcast dedicated to helping small businesses leverage technology to not only help them compete against their large competitors, but win. Your host is currently the CEO of Anthem Business Software, a three-time Inc. 500 recipient, and a serial entrepreneur with a passion to help small businesses everywhere find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. Please join me in welcoming your host, Adam DeGraide.
Hey everyone, it's Adam DeGraide with the David vs. Goliath podcast. I'm on the road for the summer, so you're going to see some different sceneries and different backgrounds. Welcome. So glad to have you. I was watching an old episode of DVG the other day with Tim Sawyer, and it was so good. There's two specific segments I want to share with the watchers and listeners. If you want to see the whole video, it'll be in the description. Today's episode is brought to you by Automate My Social, where you can automate up to 100% of your business's social media and never have to think about it again. Set it, forget it, save time, save thousands. Visit automatemysocial.com. Well, I want to get into it. Tim was a business partner of mine, dear friend, still is a business partner and a dear friend. We don't work together on a day-to-day basis, but we own some interests together as well. And I learned so much from Tim over the years, and I want to share a little bit of his story with you guys right now. So let's hear from Tim Sawyer as he talks about the value of training and implementing and building a team to start. Let's watch. When you think about the thousands of people that you've worked with over the years, what did you learn specifically in that first job that you had in managing that many people? How many people did you manage? How'd you recruit them? How'd you train them? I think people would love to hear that.
Yeah. So we had about 100 telemarketers, and I spent a little time on that, not a ton. I spent more time on the loan officer side. So just for your listeners to understand, the bank's business model was mail solicitation. So send out a solicitation across the country, across the U.S., suggesting that people can lower their credit card debt, refinance their mortgage, and save money. So when I came to the bank, there weren't a lot of systems in place. There was no training. Anybody could work there. There was no background required. It was kind of a free for all. Doing great, but it was a free for all. And so my third year there as a loan officer working on the phone, I realized that there was a better way to do it. And this is an actually really exciting part of my life where I had, because of some of my life experiences as a teenager, I had really low self-esteem going into the workforce, and I had a paralyzing fear of public speaking. And which is why I took a job for two reasons. One, I had a criminal record, and the other, they had no background checks. And the second one was I got to work on the phone, so I didn't have to see people face to face. So it solved two problems. And 23 years old. And so I learned real quick that I was really good at selling, but I was also good at mentoring. In other words, people would just naturally kind of gravitate towards me. Hey, can you walk me through this? And I really wanted to train people. I had this passion to train people, as you know. And problem was, to train people means you got to get up in front of the room and give a talk. And I was terrible at that. So at the time, I went to see a psychiatrist in Providence, told him about this fear, and he said, okay, you've got this physiological response going on, Tim.
Yep. So
as soon as you think about public speaking, you get sweaty and you get prickly and and everything goes wrong. And my wife hates us because she adverse to any type of pills because of the work that she does. Bottom line is the guy gave me a pill and he said, 45 minutes before you speak, take this pill and it'll slow down that physiological response. So I did it. And for all the crazy that the owner of that bank was, the first time I gave a talk, the words were great, but I had big pit stains and sweat and nervous and anxiety. And I thought I was dead as a public speaker, never was going to speak again. And he came up to me after we were talking. He goes, oh boy, that, didn't go too great. And I said, no. And he goes, well, when do you think you're going to do it again? And I was like, wow. And so he gave me another shot. So my passion for training, I parlayed that into being the corporate trainer, the corporate recruiter, then the guy who goes to colleges and then putting systems in place that said, okay, let's guarantee these kids a certain amount of income because at 21, you're recruiting the parent. You're not recruiting the kid, right? So the kid's got to be able to go back to his dad and say, well, I'm guaranteed $41,000 a year. Okay, that's a good job, son. You should take it, or daughter. And so we put systems in place. And then we focused a lot on the thinking around how to move someone, as you like to say, from red lights to yellow lights to green lights, right? What are the words that you use? How do you string those sentences together? How do you overcome common objections? And we drilled on that like freaks. And so once we put the training in place, a loan officer used to be, we had the worst system in the world, Adam, because if you were a great telemarketer, you got promoted to loan officer, which always meant we had the shittiest telemarketers. So I stopped that and said, if they're a good telemarketer, let them freaking telemarket. Yeah. And so I said, let's hire people as loan officers. Don't put them in the call center. We'll train them on our own. So we did a lot of role playing. And then the way they had to test out is they had to sell me a mortgage. And so they'd be in a classroom for 10 to 12 weeks. They'd get certified. And then once they hit the floor, they were up and running. So we put some parameters in place around, hey, we were looking for a certain kind of background, a kid who played sports and had some debt and, was a fighter, that kind of thing. And we just turned that thing into a freaking machine.
That was great advice from Tim Sawyer. We're going to take a quick break from AutomateMySocial.com. We'll be right back.
Do you own a business? Do you have or need a social media presence? If you are like most businesses, you spend either no time or too much time and money on your social media strategy, spending thousands of dollars per month only to get mediocre and inconsistent results. This leads to frustration and, in some cases, sleepless nights. Introducing AutomateMySocial.com. Automate 90% of your social media and never have to think about it again. That's right. Automate your business's social media posting and strategy like forever. Automate the essentials and customize only what's needed. Save time, save money, and get better results with AutomateMySocial.com. Our patent-pending technology gives you the ability to automatically create your social post and distribute them immediately, like in seconds, across all your social media platforms. Stop the madness of paying someone to create, post, and manage your strategy, and let our software do the work, so you don't have to. Oh, and if you're an agency or social media manager, you too can let our software do all the work, and you can get all the credit. It will be our little secret. With AutomateMySocial.com, you can have it all. It's easy to use, never complains, and never asks for time off or more benefits. See this amazing new software application at AutomateMySocial.com. If you own a business or manage client social media and want to save time, energy, money, all while increasing your return on investment, then let's get this party started at AutomateMySocial.com.
And we're back with David versus Goliath. I'm your host, Adam DeGraide. This next segment I love so much. It's about taking inventory in your business, taking ownership of it, and not ignoring problems in it. Let's get right back to it with Tim Sawyer. But right now, we have an aspiring entrepreneur, man or woman, or a successful business that's struggling, or a business that's struggling to get off the ground successfully. What is the one piece of advice that you would tell them that if they implemented this in their lives, it would make the biggest difference for them?
Take inventory and be brutally honest with yourself. That's the hardest thing to do, is to, and we've, for a young entrepreneur starting your business, one of the things that I suggest and talk about in speeches all the time is acting like your business is for sale, right? You and I were both very good at that. And so whether it's, like I said, a landscaper or a dentist or whatever, ask yourself, if you were going to buy that business from yourself, what would make you nervous about doing that?
Exactly.
That's how you take inventory. And you go, well, I wouldn't like the fact that we don't have this, and I wouldn't like the fact that we don't have that. So once you've taken inventory, once you're brutally honest with yourself about what needs to be fixed, then set about the task of fixing those things. And like Adam's mom told him, how do you clean a room? One corner at a time, right? So it can feel overwhelming if you go, hey, there's 20 things wrong with my little business or my big business. And that usually is the case, right? There's no business that's perfect. And so once you take inventory, once you're brutally honest with yourself, then set the task, make a list, start knocking those things out. Don't procrastinate about it. Because if you've got 20 things wrong, in 6 months, you'll have 25, unless you start working on the 20 you got wrong now. And I think what a lot of people do is they let things they know, right, at a conscious level, that things need to be fixed, but they just don't do it. You know, it's like, if I don't look at it, it'll go away. And in business, guys, that's not how it works. It never goes away. It gets worse.
That is profound knowledge, folks. If you have 20 things wrong in your business right now and you ignore them, before you know it, you'll have 25, 30, 35. What we have to do is stop right now, figure out what's going on, try to solve those problems and fix them before they become too great in our lives. Well, another amazing episode of the David versus Goliath podcast is in the can. We'll see you next week. Have an awesome day.